Welcome to the Wardrobe of Woe. Today we're going to be explaining the battle line options for the Daughters of Khaine. First up is your basic infantry units, the Witch Elves, or Aelves. They have a pretty okay stat line of 6-inch move, 7 bravery, 1 wound, and a 6-up save. Their melee profile is fine. It is 1-inch reach, 2 attacks each, 3 for the leader, 3 to hit, 4 to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. They have some pretty basic unique abilities. 1 in 10 can hold a banner, which lets them reroll Battle Shock. And this is a big one. 1 in 5 can have a horn, which lets the whole unit run and charge. So you have a pretty wide threat range with Witch Elves. When building and fielding these gals, you have an option to make for what to give them. You can give them a bladed buckler, which gives them a +1 save and a potential damage bounce back on save rolls of 6. So if you roll a 6 on your save, you could potentially deal a mortal wound back to the opponent. Knives, the dual knives, give an additional attack. Witch Elves are just okay in my mind. Their job is to run in and kill, as are most things in the Daughters of Khaine. You can use them as a screening unit to defend your heroes or your more linchpin units. Honestly, they're kind of meh. I'm not a big fan of Witch Elves. But if you want to take them to maximize their effectiveness, I would go with dual daggers and take them in squads of 20 if you want to send them to be offensive tools. But if you're just wanting screens, I would say go with squads of 10. On the note of taking the dual daggers over the bladed bucklers, a running theme with the Daughters of Khaine is you're pretty squishy. And I mean, you look at the models, they're not wearing much armor, they're not wearing much at all. So don't try and cover up for a weakness. Instead, push further into what they're good at, which is murdering things. And dual daggers is just that. Your second option is the Sisters of Slaughter. Think of these as Witch Elves Plus. They have pretty similar stats and abilities, but they just have a little bit more oomph. They have a stat line of 6 inches, 7 bravery, 1 wound, and a 6-up save. They have 2 melee profiles that they can use. They have their barbed whips, which is a 2-inch reach, 2 attacks, 3 for the leader, 3 to hit, 4 to wound, 1 rend, 1 damage. And then the sacrificial knives are the exact same, except they have 1-inch reach. They have the same banner ability as the Witch Elves, and they have the run and charge. They also innately have the bladed bucklers, so you don't need to worry about deciding between more daggers or the bucklers. Something else that is unique to them is they can fight if a unit is 6 inches away instead of 3, and they can also pile in 6 inches. So it's a little trick thing that you can play around with if your opponent thinks that they're out of range, but you can move them around a lot. They have a lot of mobility. That's their idea. Their battlefield role is they will eviscerate most things they touch. They are really killy, and I think that this is one of the better battle line units. We'll get to my personal favorites in a second. I would take them in larger blobs of 20 to 30 to maximize their 2-inch reach. Because they're still on a 25mm base, you can get a lot of attacks in, and that is crucial. Side note, if you really like the look of these models, there is a whole sub-faction based around using the Sisters of Slaughter called the Craith. So if you want to really go heavy into Sisters, you can totally do that. Now on to conditional battle line units for the Daughters of Khaine. It's just snakes. Our first flavor of snake is the Blood Sisters. In order to take these as battle line, you need a Melusi Iron Scale or a Bloodrack Medusa General. Their stat line is much better than the previous options at 8-inch move, 8 bravery, 2 wounds, and a 5-up save. Their melee profile is 2-inch reach, 3 attacks, 4 for the leader, 3 up to hit and 3 up to wound, 1 rend and 1 damage. And their only unique ability is at the end of the combat phase, you can turn some of your enemies into crystal because they're like Medusas. But instead of stone, it's crystal, so that's neat. So for every unit in your snake blob, you can roll a dice, and every 3 up is a mortal wound to an enemy within 1 inch. Their battlefield role is to turn whatever they touch into a fine red mist. I love these gals. They're awesome. Um, I've charged them in before into a maxed out unit of Ard Boys, and I layered on my buffs correctly, and I wiped the whole unit. So they are just blenders. These guys are awesome. Um, they're an elite's infantry choice. As you can see in the photo, there is only 5 snakes in the minimum unit size, so they're pretty expensive. And also, that's a typo on this slide. To maximize the effectiveness of Blood Sisters, you want to take them in squads of 5 to 10. And last but not least is the bow variant of the Blood Sisters, called the Blood Stalkers. Same as previously, they must have a Melusa Iron Scale or a Blood Rack Medusa General to take as Battleline. They have a stat line the exact same as the Blood Sisters. They do have some melee profiles, but you're not really wanting these ones in melee. You want to take advantage of their bows. They have their first melee weapon, the Skillinar, I think that's how you pronounce it, is a 1-inch reach, 2 attacks, 3 to hit, 4 to wound, rend none, damage 1. The leader has the Bloodworm. You can see her in the very front of that picture, little blood dragon thing. It gives her an extra melee profile, which I prefer an extra range attack, but this is what you get access to. It's a 1-inch reach, 1 attack, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, no rend, 1 damage. Now their ranged profile is where it's all at. They have 2 attacks each, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, 1 rend, and 1 damage. And here's the kicker. Their unique ability allows them to deal mortal wounds on 6 to hit. So that is pretty good if you take them in squads of 10, because potentially you have 20 shots, and then 6s are mortals plus whatever else you get through. Those can do a lot of hurt. And Daughters of Khaine have various accesses to command abilities that let them shoot in the hero phase. So you can potentially get 40 shots off, and you can do some serious damage with them. I like to advance them alongside the rest of your Death Star formation and take out threats that kind of are approaching. If there's one particular enemy hero or whatever that you just really want dead, you can focus all of your fire into it and hope that you get enough mortal wounds through to kill it. They also soften up targets for your melee blender units, so you can just wipe it out so you don't get any retaliatory melee attacks in the following phases. I would always take these girls in squads of 10. I think any less, you're losing a lot of efficiency. And that is the Daughters of Khaine battle line. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If there is a faction or concept in Age of Sigmar that you'd like me to cover, please leave it down in the comments below.